You cannot heal yourself and hate yourself. If you are aiming to be on a serious healing journey, especially from past trauma, you have to be willing to let go of shame. You have to be willing to change your perception of yourself so that you can heal in a healthy way. If you don't know who I am, I'm Vernique, licensed clinical social worker, therapist, author, and speaker. My concentration, what I specialize in, what I'm really, really good at, is helping people heal from emotional and relational trauma, meaning trauma that happens in our inner world and trauma that happens between us and others, especially romantic relationships. As somebody who's experienced divorce, I am all too familiar with what it looks like to heal from a really deeply wounded place. I've also experienced childhood trauma, so I know what it's like to have to fight through the narratives and the beliefs and the core beliefs that other people, before you even had a chance at the world, for other people to tell you who you are and what that means, and you having to detangle that mess, right? But I want to talk to you today about how to heal away from shame, how to heal in a way that still honors your personhood and that isn't stuck in this idea of what you should be doing. Usually, when people think about healing, they think about self awareness. They think that when you're self aware, that is the proof of your healing work. That means that you're healing because you can point out these things in yourself. And don't get me wrong, we have to be self aware in order to heal because a lot of us live on autopilot. We don't want to know what's going on below the surface because we have real things going on. There's bills, there's the economy, there's, if you're a parent, there's all sorts of things going on. And it's usually easier to live externally and to not deal with what lies beneath the surface into the world of our emotions and our true thoughts and beliefs. And so people kind of stop at self-awareness because that's already better than half the people they know who are unaware of how they impact and harm others and themselves. But what I've learned and what I've seen in my clients is that a lot of people are self-aware through shame, right? So you're just aware enough to intellectualize a problem and not actually engage and address with your humanity. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but you end up just living in this space of shame where you're pointing out like, oh yes, I recognize that I have this habit of, distracting myself when I don't want to do work. And so you shame yourself and like, yeah, I got to do better. I got to do better. And that becomes like that awareness leads to you shaming yourself and trying to become hyper disciplined in order to heal from that thing because you used to distract yourself as a child when you were experiencing childhood trauma, whatever your thing is. Now, we can do things that way and maybe you'll get results. My clientele is high achieving women. So they have lived a lot of their lives doing things from a shame based lens. They shamed themselves into really good jobs, into really great careers, into leadership and all these things. And they've learned to intellectualize their emotions instead of actually feeling them. And for those of you who don't know what intellectualization is, it's a defense mechanism that our brain uses where basically you have all the right answers, but you have no emotional work to show for it. Remember when we used to do math in school and they'll be like, show your work? You get to the answer, but you have no emotional work to it. And that may seem like, well, why do I need the emotional work? Well, because the trauma happened in your emotions. Trauma, the type of trauma that we're talking about, are emotional wounds. And if you've taken my trauma languages course, then you understand a little bit more about what that means. But the wound is in the emotions. Just because you understand how to bandage a wound doesn't mean that you've actually bandaged the wound. And so intellectualization is understanding why you do it, but not addressing the part of you that still needs to do it. And then you then partner with shame to get yourself to stop doing it by telling yourself that it's not good and look at everybody else and masking what's really going on. So you never actually get to true healing. So with all of that said, in order for us to shift away from shame and intellectualization and poor self-perception, because that's really where it comes from. Shame comes from this idea that you're not good enough, that you cannot get it right, or what other people have told you about you. So it's you not really seeing yourself in totality and in fullness. Especially for those of us who are Christians, you're not seeing yourself in light of who God says you are and not who the world, your trauma, and maybe even people in your life life have told you that you are. So you have this poor self-perception. So in order for us to shift away from that and to shift towards true self-love and self-compassion so that you can heal for real, as I like to say, you need to do the necessary healing work to address your trauma. So it's like before we can even heal, you have to heal that area, and kind of heal your relationship with yourself. So that way you can then deal with the trauma that's been incurred between you and others. Right. And so the way we do that is 4 steps. So that's what I'm going to break down in this video. Number 1, ask yourself questions, but really ask yourself the right questions. And what I mean by that is, do you engage with yourself? Do you ask yourself what's going on with you? A lot of the times when my clients are in therapy, when they're in session and they feel stuck and they're like, I don't know how I feel. I stop and I get them to ask themselves. Yeah, crazy. If you talk to yourself talks back. And so ask yourself, like, what's going on with me right now? What do I need? Do I feel safe in this moment? How do I feel about that interaction? What brings me to this job every day? Is this something that I'm doing because I want to or because I feel like it's necessary? Why am I still in this relationship? Does this fulfill me? Do I feel connected? Do I feel like I can pour out and be poured back into? Or am I just here because I want to avoid loneliness, right? Asking yourself questions so you can actually hear what yourself has to say. The next thing is to change your inner culture. I talk a lot in my courses and in my speaking engagements about honoring your humanity. Now, if you hear nothing else that I say in this video, I want you to hear this. Honor your humanity. What this means is, this is a phrase that I developed in order to get my clients to stop shaming themselves, stop asking themselves why in that like shameful kind of like, why did I do that kind of way? And get you to see things from that version of you's perspective. So instead of being angry and having animosity towards this version of yourself that didn't know any better, that didn't have the right tools, that didn't have the right community, the right access, that didn't have everything that you have today, empathizing with that version of yourself and allowing that version to be in light and not in this shroud of darkness that you've likely put it in. Basically, you need to build empathy and love and care and honor towards the past versions of yourself that you have the most animosity towards, the versions that you feel the most shame about, especially for those of you guys who are holding yourself hostage to things that you didn't do to yourself, especially for those of you who'd experienced abuse or misconduct, all of those things. That wasn't your fault, but a lot of you are holding yourself hostage or seeing yourself in light of something that happened to you and blaming yourself. So honoring your humanity is about understanding that version of yourself, loving them well, and honoring the fact that they were so that you could become. A lot of you are sitting on the backs of a past versions of you's work, and you don't even honor that person. Right? So change your inner culture, change how you talk to yourself, change how you address yourself, past and current, change the culture that you have in your mind. Years ago, when I was going through deep healing work, post-divorce, I had to set up this thing with myself where I was like, we don't talk to ourselves like that. That is not the culture that we have in this body and in this mind. You have to be willing to change your inner culture. Number 3, put your needs and wants first. This is just a cute little way of saying have boundaries. And y'all know boundaries is my favorite B word. I have the Build Better Boundaries course as well at thewholenessacademy.com that you can take that, or trauma languages. But boundaries. Okay. Boundaries protect the healing work that you do. Boundaries isn't healing, but it protects the healing work that you do. When you understand that you are precious, that you are valuable, that you are kind, that you are worthy, then you don't let any and everybody access you. Not only that, see, a lot of times we think of boundaries as the things that we need for other people. No. You need boundaries with yourself. Remember earlier when I talked about how I had to change my culture and how I talk to myself in my mind, you have to do the same thing with you. You need to put your needs and your wants before taking care of everybody else. Don't get me wrong. As a Christian, I believe that we should look after one another, that we have to take care of each other, that sometimes you do have to sacrifice for your friends, family, loved ones. But if that is all you do and there's never a no on what you can and cannot do, what you have the capacity for, then you're probably not moving with as much intentionality as you need to with yourself. You have to be willing to put your wants and needs first. Having a relationship with yourself means that you prioritize what you need, which means that you listen to your body. You listen to, the goals that you set for yourself this year or this month, right? And you don't allow that to fall by the wayside because everybody else is calling your name. And then last but not least, number 4, invest in your life experience. And this is going to seem frivolous, but what I mean by this is, one, investing in the things that you need, whether that's therapy, coaching, time off, right? But also investing in the experiences that you want. A lot of the time, our trauma is rooted in places and spaces that we never truly broke free of. Part of my experience in childhood was being, low income. And part of how I break that is, yes, by being disciplined with my money and things like that, and making sure that I have good safety nets and things. But I also give myself life experiences to remind myself that I'm safe. For example, I plan to go out of the country for my birthday. That is not something that I would have had the opportunity to do as a child often, especially in this way. But I'm giving it to myself as a way to show my inner child, that past version of myself that's still scared of being financially low. I do that to show her, like, hey, we're safe. Look, we can go to these amazing places. We can have this good time. Invest in food experiences that you like and that you want, whatever that means to you. Your thing may not be financial trauma, but what life experiences do you need to have to remind yourself that you're safe? Maybe that's investing in a workout class. Maybe that's investing in more time with your friends. Maybe that's traveling more, right? So not going crazy with money, but the point is to give yourself the experiences that you need in order to feel safe, cared for, and loved. Now, I hope that this was helpful to you. This is just a mini series, like this little mini snippet of what it looks like to heal away from shame and towards self-love and self-compassion, so that way you can heal for real. Now, if you want more videos like this, let me know, comment below. I don't often make YouTube videos, but I'm feeling like it may be my time. So if you enjoyed this or if you have any questions, drop them below. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with a friend. Maybe if y'all are digging it, maybe I'll do this a little bit more. But for now, take care, be healed, be whole. Talk to you soon.